still live, yeah? Okay, so Twitch chat, like basically up until this point in the draft, it's looked at like, all right, so up until this point, so B1 Jinx comes in. So how do I, all right, so let's do this, okay? So all right, let's move this up, okay? So B1 Jinx comes in. This is all fine. I think this is winning. And then Maokai comes in, R1, R2 with Lulu. This is, you know, whatever. I think this is genuinely losing. So the reason that I think the Lulu is losing is because there's no AD carry that can pair with Lulu that will pair with Lulu that will actually overthrow Jinx. But then you actually give Jinx the ability to just pick a better enchanter. So it doesn't make any sense to ever pick the Lulu because the Lulu is never going to be a flex. You're never going to have Lulu go mid lane. You're never going to have Lulu go top lane. It's almost always showing that it's just going to be a Philios in most cases, right? So with that being the current situation, this is just losing. It doesn't really matter that it's Wise Mystical Tree inside of the jungle. This is just a losing line. Now, the problem ends up happening here where they go Rakan on B2 and then B3 Jace. So at this point, I actually think that JDG actually falls behind in draft. Because the Rakan doesn't make any sense, and the Jace doesn't make any sense. Because I think that Jace, obviously, it's only mid or top lane, and Jace does not pair with Jinx's theme. You know that when you have the Jinx and when the Lulu is locked in, there's not a marksman champion that pairs with Lulu that overthrows the Jinx. So it doesn't make any sense why you would go away from the Jinx archetype, why you would go away from the Jinx build around. So when the Jace ends up coming in, they're pivoting away from it, and it doesn't feel like there's any sense to do something like that. It doesn't feel like that is a necessary build around. Actually, we can talk about how actually if they wanted to do this Nautilus thing later, it would actually make more sense to have a Philios to do this than it would for them to have Jinx to do this. And actually, it would be better for the opponents to have Jinx when you do these Nautilus shenanigans than for them to have a Philios. But anyways, so moving forward, they take the Jace. Now, at this point, JDG falls behind in the draft. I actually get worried for JDG here. So Aphelios comes in on R3. At this point, I think, okay, now we head to the second ban phase. I think draft is somewhat even across the board. Because Aphelios and Lulu are pretty okay. They still do have range advantage with Jace and Aphelios, which is okay. But Wise Mystical Tree, Aphelios, there is a lot of setup available. And at this point, Jace has like a lot of things that you have to worry about. There's like Scion, there's Malphite, there's all these other types of champions that can definitely cause problems. And then there's a lot of setup in these two champions, right? The Aphelios and the Maokai. So we go to the ban phase, and then Sylas and Sejuani both get banned. And I think what the Sylas is trying to do is they're trying to make them think that they're going to take Malphite. I think that's what they're making them think, that they're just going to Malphite into the Jace. That is what this Sylas ban signifies. 100% that's what the Sylas ban does. So with the Sylas ban, that's what that's doing. Now the Gnar and the Fiora, I think, is signifying that they want like Ornn or they want Sylas, something to that extent. Now when the Syndra comes in on R4, I think this is also further, you know, saying like maybe Malphite's still going to come in on R5 if the Jace is indeed top lane or something. So the Syndra comes in. Syndra, a little bit weird, but sort of whatever. Now Gragas and Nautilus come in. Now this is where it gets really interesting, and this is where the big mind game comes in that actually allows JDG to like sort of salvage and win the draft. So the Gragas comes in with the Nautilus, and at this point, BLG thinks that Nautilus is mid lane, Jace is top lane, and Gragas is in the jungle. That's what they think is going on. So it's going to be a low econ Gragas, mid lane Nautilus versus Syndra, very standard, very traditional. And then they think it's going to be Jace versus X in top lane. So what does Bin do? Bin takes Jax into Jace. And he thinks, okay, simple enough. I'm just going to take Jax into Jace. That's what's going on here. Nope, Chuck Testa. So what ends up happening is Nautilus just simply goes into the jungle. And as soon as Nautilus goes into the jungle, this completely changes everything because now the dynamics are totally shifted. Where Gragas now goes into top lane, counters the Jax. You have Jace versus Syndra, which is a pretty neutral thing, right? Syndra is still like feeling pretty good. Jace is still sort of like whatever. But what you gain access to is you gain access to Gragas having more base levels and a lot more gold, and you gain access to limiting Jax in a way that Jace wouldn't be able to. And you gain access to having a lot of AP damage that allows you to reach Aphelios and Syndra in the mid game, right? So there's a lot of value there. Now, one of the things that you'll still notice about the JDG team composition is what is Jinx even doing? Jinx is like just this no-theme hyper carry that's just like here. There's nothing really like going on with her. She's just sort of like there. If this is a Philios, there's more setup. There's just, it doesn't, her identity in this comp doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Now, fast forward inside of the game, and obviously like there's plays that end up happening, and you come into like certain parts that are like really key. I think like the really big one is obviously the Rift Herald, right? There's the first gank thing that happens in bot lane, but that's not the super big one. The Rift Herald is the really important one. Where is this? I don't know where the timestamp is on it. I think it's coming up. Oh, it's right here. So this whole series of events. So Elk is actually already here. They actually kill missing. This was a really big deal. So the gold lead is actually somewhat similar at this fight. And if you see the minimap, Teleport's actually coming in on Knight. Knight's coming off a pretty strong reset. His items are relatively good. Now, the wave in mid is somewhat bad, right? Bot lane's just, you know, whatever, to the void. Bin has teleport. Yagao has teleport. Now, realistically, you don't actually have to fight this Rift Herald. There's no reason to fight this Rift Herald if you're BLG. Because if the game continues to go long enough, eventually it does hit a breakpoint where Syndra and friends with Maokai can eventually just snare someone, and then it creates a really big problem. Now, obviously, Gragas and Jace, depending on like how they itemize, yes, they can also just threaten to eventually pop someone. But in this Rift Herald fight, if you end up watching it, this is the engage attempt. So you look at all of BLG, Shun goes in on Maokai. No one can follow up. Look at Aphelios' guns right here. Look at Knight's angle. They try to go in on Ruler. Look at 369. He has this really good angle on Yagao and On and Bin. And then he tries to go in on Ruler. No one can get in. And then Knight is over here threatening onto Elk. This angle by BLG is just totally mismanaged. Shun is just throwing the whole game with his entire engage because 369 had such a good wraparound at the Herald. So everything is just super poor. Super poorly done, and they just threatened to lose the entire game at the Rift Herald, which they actually do. At this point, when they lose this, it's like I talked about in the VOD review yesterday in the T1 series. This is not just the Rift Herald being lost. It is all of the 165 gold cannon waves in addition to the 105 gold non-cannon waves, plus all of the EXP, so 665 EXP per 2 waves, in mid and top lane and bot lane, plus all of the plates. You can see all the, the plates and all the waves off of the loss of the fight on each turret and stuff that ends up being lost. That's the real loss of the Herald. It's not just the Herald itself. And teams all around the world, they don't bother doing this whole comprehensive big picture math on EXP and gold and all this other stuff. They big picture tunnel on Big Purple Monster. I don't understand. It's like a bad OnlyFans commercial. I'm not really sure what's going on there. But the Rift Herald makes it so that BLG almost never really gets to come back in this game because it just puts Knight so far ahead. If you look at what Knight had up until this point, prior to like the gank and other stuff, you look at his itemization, he was starving. Doron Shield refillable and Merc Treads. He has no tier. No serrated Dirk, he's full utility Jace, and then all of a sudden, after Rift Herald, he has Eclipse, he has tier 2 boots, catapults Jace right back into the game, and then full AP Gragas. Everything's just really good. So that was, the Rift Herald was just absolutely game deciding. I don't think BLG's draft approach is actually that bad. I think they got really caught off guard, obviously, by the Nautilus pivot.
Do the last team fight.
The last team, what?
Do the cloud value.
The cloud value.
Cloud value.
Where's the cloud value? Let me do that, yeah.
It's all right. Yeah.
Where is it? Is it here?
Show us the cloud value.
Look at, guys, most important thing in the game. You see
Yeah,
that?
thank you.
Look at this. What are they, now obviously I know what they're recalling. They have Infinity Edge and whatever else. See this dragon right here? Look at this miracle. You see it's even glowing right now.
Oh, hang on. No, this isn't the fight because they had 2 of them, didn't they? So
no, I know. They're going to capture it, Atlus. Let it
All right,
happen.
yeah, sorry.
Jesus,
The whole story,
God.
the whole story.
It's glowing right now, okay? Because it has a bounty around it. No, but, yeah, we can just fast forward. Knight ends up escaping. He actually escaped, by the way. Let me show you that Knight escaped the gank in top lane. All right, take a look at this. Okay. All right, so watch this, Syndra. Okay. All right. Notice that Maokai didn't hit. He had a cloud dragon. I'm just pointing out. I'm just pointing out that Maokai. Okay, just throwing it out there, right? Cloud drakes matter. All right, cloud drakes matter. But anyways, so the inhibitor gets captured, and then they go on the Great Chase, right? Knight out of combat movement speed. True. Mm-hmm. True. The distance he was able to get to. Amazing. Amazing. No, but realistically, they just overchased for Knight. They don't have the damage to actually kill him.
By the way, we're in pick and ban.
We're in pick and ban. All right, let's go.
Yeah. We can jump over.
All right, this, I mean, it's first time. All right, first time. We need a clock for this.
Not as important as